Raleigh. I'll drop my phone. Someone joined us. Sorry about that. I dropped my phone in the snow. Raleigh and I are out for a snowy walk. Stayed safe, a little phone just in the snow. Raleigh, come back, bud. It's a snowy East Tennessee morning. I thought I'd jump on here. I had a video on X get 3.5 million views about a guardrail missing some bolts, and it was interesting because I get a lot of support from Congressman Burchett, but one of his legislative aides actually reached out to me, and he reached out to me and said they'd help me get the ones fixed. It was a guardrail on TVA land, which is owned by the federal government, which usually I have to reach out to them. Let me set my phone down for a minute. But that was Bristol, Tennessee. It's a beautiful area. Raleigh! I'm out here we have a hound dog, and he was supposed to be a basset. Ended up being a treeing walker. It is a cold, snowy, day here in East Tennessee. But anyways, I had this video that I've had videos get over 1 million views here on YouTube, lots of them, several over on TikTok, one over on Facebook. I haven't done a lot on Facebook, but one platform I've had very limited success on is X on Twitter. Tried there. I have a lot of really prominent officials that follow me on X. So even though I had only like 500 or 600 followers there, it was still good because it included folks like Chris Van Cleve and at CBS National and Kristen Crawley, big time reporters. But a couple days ago, I had a video that all of a sudden got like 3.5 million views, and my subscriber count went from like 600 to almost 60,000 overnight. We have a MSKT there. And get to join us. We're gonna briefly walk on US 321 way off the road. Hopefully we won't have any problems. I just thought I'd take you for a little bit of a walk with us this snowy end of January. We don't usually get a lot of snow here in East Tennessee, but we have a fair amount today. This is Raleigh. He's got his fancy vest on and loves the snow. I'm gonna head down here on US 321, and then I'll end up getting off the highway and going on the East Lake Shore Trail, which is some federal land, about 3,000 acres of undeveloped property. But anyways, let me try not to drop my phone in the snow. Raleigh, get over here. So yeah, Bristol is, Jennifer said my dad lives in Bristol, and I get up to Bristol every once in a while. Raleigh, get over here. Look up here. It's a cold, snowy East Tennessee morning. I grew up south of Buffalo, New York, in a little town called Fredonia. I don't know if anyone ever has been to Fredonia, knows where it is, but it's about as far south and as far west in New York State as you go. Ripley would actually be as far south and west as you go. That's where my dad was born, my mom was born. But they get snow up there. We don't normally get snow here in East Tennessee. But thought I'd let you join me for a snowy East Tennessee walk. I've got Raleigh here, and he is very excited to get out in the snow. And so here's a guardrail we'll take a look at. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask away. We have guardrail here, and I've been looking at, so this is a radius rail, and that's an inline anchor which provides tension for the rail. And I had a guy just recently, one of the things I do that I don't really talk a lot about on YouTube is I've probably gotten in the neighborhood of 150 to 200 phone calls from people. They usually start with, "Is this Steve?" And I know what's coming next. It usually involves my son was decapitated by a guardrail, or my wife was cut in half, and I've gotten those exact things probably 10 times. But I got a couple of those calls this week, and one of them involved a crash out in California, and it was a radius rail like this, and it was an incinerating crash. Right up ahead of me, about 1.5 miles, so somebody said, "What part of Tennessee am I?" I'm from Lawrenceburg. I'm in Lenore City today, and right near the Fort Loudoun Tellico Dam. I'm going to be walking on the undeveloped side of Tellico Dam. But anyways, going back, I have another question here, but I'll come back to that. This radius here, a young woman, she hit the guardrail way up here, but the radius it came back this way, and it was anchored way back here rather than in line like what you see here. It was driving a Honda, so should have been redirected. This was out in California. There was no inline anchor that provides tension for the rail, and she overrode the rail, went into what was the hazard, and was caused an incinerating fire. And one of the, like I say, all of these crashes are one of the worst, but it was, she survived the crash, and it was the fire that took her life. I see a comment here. Sorry, I'll get back to that story. It says, "Bro, I wish I had a four-wheeler. It's fun doing donuts." And I might be a hypocrite, but I was at Costco getting a cake for my wife's birthday, and I did do a couple donuts. That's you can take the boy out of Buffalo, but you can't take the buffalo out of the boy. Anyways, going back to that California crash, it's completely avoidable with something as silly as a inline anchor. I do have a story that's nationwide right now. It's I don't think I'm in it, but I seeded it. A little boy, Cameron App, one of the worst crashes. This is the worst, one of the worst, because he's 6 years old. Just Google guardrail crash, and all Gray TV stations. Kristen Crawley, he's a reporter I've worked with a lot, has the story. Gray TV owns about 200 local stations, has investigates TV. They're the ones. Andy Parati in Atlanta, WANF, is who I broke the Tesla guardrail crash test failures with. But Cameron was a little boy, 6 years old, who was speared in Kansas. And that was another one of those calls that I was telling you about earlier. They're awful. But if you know anyone it's fairly easy to track me down. And I'll be there for those families. Unfortunately, had to do a bunch of those calls. But Cameron's was a bad one because he's 6 years old. It makes you thankful. At least we got 17 years. So how would I get started to know what type of guardrail I'm looking at and what they're supposed to look like? That takes a lot of time, Jennifer. What I would suggest, if I was just getting started, I wanted to make a difference, would be to look for obvious damage, preferably on a state highway or interstate. The reason I'm going to say for that is because two reasons. Reporting guardrails on a state highway or interstate is where you're going to get the most bang for your buck, so to speak. Got a little snow ice devil up there. It's kind of cool. Anyways, so the most bang for your buck because it's higher speeds. And Willie Sutton, he was a bank robber, famous bank robber. He said, "Why do you rob banks?" I said, "That's where the money is. And if you want to save lives involving guardrail, you focus on interstates and you focus on like state highways, like what you have here, 321. They're higher speed, kinetic energy, and you get rid of a guardrail that's damaged. It's going to be more likely to save a life. So that's number one, Jennifer. Why I'd choose focusing on state highways and damage. It's obvious damage. Anybody can see that. And then the other reason is state DOTs have more liability and bigger budgets, so they're a little more responsive. I've had some local governments, the local government up here, you just go across these bridges into Lenore City. I've reported 400 to 500 missing guardrail bolts, and they've not put a bolt in any one of those guardrails. And I have one in Alcoa, Tennessee, 3 guardrails. The engineer insists that despite the impact head not being on the guardrails, it's just fine. I've offered to get Dr. Dean Sicking, NASCAR Hall of Famer, who invented safer barrier after Dale Earnhardt was killed, invented this product that they screwed up, and their engineer insists that he knows more than Dr. Sicking, the guy who invented the product. So I work with local governments, but in my experience, local governments can have very limited budgets and absolutely arrogant incompetence. So I find it a little bit easier to work with state DOTs because they have the budget and a little more motivated to actually fix the problem. Yeah, so Lucas is saying, so you're the guy that wants to get guardrails fixed because of terrible crashes. And so my daughter was, I'm going to put this glove on, it's cold out here. Actually, I need to flip this. I'll flip it for a second so we can talk. My daughter was Hannah Eimers. She was 16 when she was, so I didn't know a thing about guardrails. And she was 17, and hit a guardrail, went through her car. There was installation errors. There was downstream damage. The company had self-certified their own product. There were undisclosed change. I'm a Ketam fraud relator. Ketam is a Latin term which means on behalf of the Lord Sovereign, I think, and myself. Essentially, it's a section of the law that allows a whistleblower to bring forth a lawsuit on behalf of the government to recover fraud funds. So I've got a case that's open out in California, Tennessee. Those are unsealed, and California and Tennessee cases, and I'm trying to get hundreds, hopefully California over $100 million in taxpayer dollars back, go back to the state DOTs and be able to recover the funds. Tennessee, I don't know what they would be, but anyways, that's a section of the law called QTAM. Sometimes people call it False Claims Act. I have had those open. It's slow going. So I'd give you a hug if I could. I'd love that hug. Come on, you should come on out. Check this out. It's just beautiful, snowy weather. So Jennifer is in Northwest Florida. So I'll tell you, let's see. I know of so many guardrails that are damaged and left like that for so long, missing bolts, missing cables, missing the end where you'd hit it. It's ridiculous. So Florida's actually been one of the most responsive states, and I did a series of stories with Channel 10 WTSP in Tampa, and we were able to get tens of millions. A third of all the guardrails in the state of Florida were replaced because we kept tying improper installation or damage or other things to a death or somebody getting their leg cut off. Charles Pike. One of the crazy things about Florida, I used to joke that all you needed to do to be a guardrail contractor was to be out of jail. And then I found the Charles Pike crash, and Pike had a Frankenstein guardrail. It was mixed between two systems, and it had been installed by Florida State prisoners, a chain gang, a literal chain gang. So you don't even have to be out of jail to install guardrails. But Florida has actually been pretty decent. We did an investigation, looked at a bunch of guardrails in Disney World, and Disney agreed to spend close to $13 million to upgrade their entire barrier system. That Florida story won a Suncoast Emmy. Those Frankenstein stories, I think the reporters actually won them, but I did a lot of the producer type work, which was finding the guardrails, finding them documents and stuff like that. But 5 Emmys. One won a National Edward R. Murrow Award, which is crazy because I'm just a guy from rural East Tennessee with a hound dog. And one of the reporters at WUSA in DC actually sent me the Emmy that he won for the story at WUSA in Washington DC, which is pretty cool. I remember when I first started my business, I was working down here. There was an old man who had an Emmy award, and I was like, "How did you get?" Or I said, "Is this thing real?" That's the first thing I said, and it was, and I was just like, "Where did that come from?" And now I'm that old man with the Emmy award sitting on the shelf. I'll probably have some young punks someday say, "Is that thing real?" But it was real. It's very interesting. I mean, the world I stepped into by accident. It's the worst day of my life. That's what it took to basically find not just what I'm good at, but what I'm really good at, which is, identifying these issues and getting them fixed. I bet I've gotten, indirectly at least, up over $1 billion with a B, $1 billion worth of guardrails fixed. Anyways, it's just what happened. Let me flip this around. Let me see we're just on a hiking path now. And let's see, I had 80% battery. We'll see how long my phone lasts. I'm going to take you on a hike out here. This is the East Lakeshore Trail. That is Tellico, that's a canal that connects Tellico Lake with Fort Loudoun Lake, part of the, you could lock all the way through to the Mississippi and out into the ocean if you wanted to from here. But anyways, let's see what Jennifer is saying. You're put into a place out of tragedy to prevent others from enduring that same heartache. You are not just a guy, you're a great treasure to ensuring accountability and safety for people. Thank you. The first time I testified, I've gotten questions asked on the congressional record, questions asked in committee. I did a press conference at the New York State Senate in New York with former Senator Young. Testified a couple times before the Tennessee General Assembly. And I remember there was a story from where Joseph from the Bible is. He's been sold into slavery by his brothers, and he says what man meant for evil, God meant for good. And I think that I've had to accept that God is sovereign and I am not, and for some reason put me in a position to get those questions answered, and we've made a ton of progress. I mean, federal laws, state laws, regulatory changes in Canada. I've gotten guardrails replaced in Christchurch, New Zealand, Australia, all over. I can't go almost anywhere and not see a guardrail that I didn't have some role in getting it replaced. It's crazy. But anyways, I had a video blow up on TikTok this week. It got like 3.5 million views. It was an unbolted guardrail. I got maybe 10,000 over here on YouTube. But a legislative aide from a congressional office actually called me, not the other way around, and said, hey, we'll get that. We're going to get a hold of TVA and have them fix those problems, which that's the power of everyone who watches my videos, and is that gives me an audience with these legislative leaders. I called up Congressman Fleischman. It was Burchett's office that called me, but it was in Fleischman's district. And being able to say, hey, this video about these guardrails in your district has 3.5 million views. They can't ignore that. So that guardrail was actually, my daughter just bought a house out in Kingston, Tennessee, near the Kingston fossil plant. There had been an environmental disaster, which was like $1 billion plus cleanup. Probably 100 workers that ended up being exposed to some toxic fly ash while they're cleaning up. TVA wouldn't let them wear masks, and dozens upon dozens, have gotten really serious respiratory diseases, and many of them are dead. So that was the context. And right where the spill took place, the guardrails, they've cleaned out the river where they spilled over 1 billion gallons of toxic fly ash. But the guardrails there are literally unbolted, and it's just absurd. And so Congressman Burchett's been helping me on that now, unsolicited too, because y'all watch the videos and they can't afford to not do anything about it. Fleischman, we're going to loop him in with Burchett's office, and hopefully we can get TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority, which that's a cabinet level federal government agency, get them to inspect all of their guardrails and bring them up to standard. Those are generally protecting waterways, 99.99% of the guardrails in America are owned by a state or local government. These are rare ones that are actually owned by the feds. So getting those fixed will be a big step. TVA in the past was very responsive when I found some loose swing gates. We ended up with a system-wide upgrade, and that was related to swing gates that were unlatched and had not been, they added warning labels. It was related to a crash I found out in Utah, where a young woman, nurse from Uganda, her husband was driving. She had married an American guy, and speared the window, and she was killed. So do get a fair amount of stuff done. Let me flip this around. It's just absolutely gorgeous out here today. Tellico Lake, and just beautiful, beautiful. Oh, so have you been to Canada to look at Guardrail? I've not been into Canada, specifically Alberta. I did, we're still on NCHRP 350 standards. The only ban turned down ends 10 years ago. Yeah, so let me tell you about, that was Snicker. So my experience in Canada, I have gotten, so in Alberta, did a story with CBC. It was related to the guardrail involved in my daughter's crash. I got involved, MLAs, I think is what they're called, are members of Legislative Assembly. You have a slightly different form of government than us too, very similar, but got the members of the Legislative Assembly involved, and we were able to get a $2 million replacement project going in Alberta of the product involving my daughter's death, although I think some of them might still be out there. I've got a similar thing in Manitoba. I got Prince Edward Island banned because they never used any. I forget what the Ontario, I got brought up in Parliament by former, he was involved with when Reagan and Gorbachev, Brian Mulroney's daughter, Carolyn. Question 250 in Parliament, got that done. But Canada, especially Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, has some serious sketchy guardrails. Up near Winnipeg, there was a series of crashes over Assiniboine? I am gonna butcher that. The river there outside of Winnipeg. Seen some really serious crashes. There's an overpass that goes over the river with some really sketchy guardrails. But turndowns, like you mentioned, those are just awful. 1 in every 6 impacts on a turndown will result in a K or A level injury in the Cabco scale, which means critical injury or death. And that's like any impact involving a turndown unit. 1 in 6 is either going to kill you or leave you almost dead. So that they were using those it's just criminal. So that about Alberta. I've had some success in Alberta. Might be a guy named Harold Larson was in charge of guardrails, I think, in might be Manitoba, but I think it was Alberta. It's been a while. Jennifer, hey, thank you so much. That is an awesome gift. Puts gas in the car, lets me go out and find some more stuff, and I can easily take that $20 and buy gas and get $20,000 worth of guardrails to replace. So appreciate that investment in me and the overall message. This is just gorgeous out here. This is Tennessee Valley Authority property. Nobody's been out here for a while besides us two. A lot of wildlife, a lot of fish, a lot of, it's just beautiful property, all undeveloped property here on the south side of Tellico Lake. I love hiking out here. Thought I'd let y'all, whoever wanted to join us, join us. Share a little bit of my background. One of the things that was kind of cool is that with that video that got about 3.5 million views on X, we go from about 600 followers over there, which I've tried to grow it, but it just hasn't caught, to 50,000 overnight, basically. About 240 some thousand subscribers here on YouTube, and maybe 50 some thousand over on TikTok. But it's just crazy how things can explode like that overnight, and really just gives me more of an audience with the folks that can actually kind of like an army of Davids. They have to listen to us when we can show them, hey, look, you have 3.5 million views, you're on notice. I had a thing recently, that video that got like 9 million views or more, about a bridge transition. I sent it to the company executive who I knew had installed it and said, dang, I wouldn't want to be you. Can you imagine if somebody's hurt here or killed? Or can you imagine what your deposition would look like? You're going to play my video over and over and over again. If they go to trial, you're going to play it for the jury a dozen times. And they're going to say, if 9 million people saw this, why didn't you do anything about it? Well, guess what? It got fixed very fast. And what was really cool about that was that another congressman, John Rose, who is running for governor against Senator Blackburn here in Tennessee, he's gonna go walk guardrails with me and inspect them. And it's crazy, because it's just crazy. I'll tell you another story. I'll tell you about, I have no political connections, and the sovereignty of God, over and over. I have bumped into so many congressmen and senators from around the nation. Ended up on a plane with the chair of the Committee on Highways for the United States Congress sitting next to him, and he was trapped for an hour and a half. I had nowhere to go. He had to listen to me. Anyways, I got invited. One of my things is I will not make a political donation regardless of political party. I'm not giving money to a politician. Friend called me up. He said, hey, Congressman Rose has 2 extra tickets, gave them to me. Would you want one? I'm like, well, I'm not paying, but sure. And I wanted to make sure I was a good guest. I took the seat facing away from the stage, looking back at the audience, because I mean, Congressman, he bought 2 tables. They were expensive, and I didn't want to be a bad guest, so I sit down facing away from the stage. Well, the congressman sits down next to me facing the wrong way, away from the stage. He takes one of the worst seats too, and his wife sits. We talked for an hour and a half about guardrails and about foster care. I have 6 adopted kids, and it's like, how in the world do I end up sitting next to a congressman, choose the worst seat, and can talk about subjects that I'm passionate about for an hour and a half with a sitting United States congressman? I didn't pay to get in. I've had that happen. I got gotten Trump to speak out on guardrails. I got Biden to speak out on guardrails in the State of the Union. I've been able to try. I think Charlie Baker up in Massachusetts was asked about Hannah. Senator Blumenthal, Senator Cardin, he's gone now. Alexander. The blonde guy from Van Hollen in Maryland. It's huge help. He's done a couple stories on NBC in Washington for me. And it's like, how in the world did all that happen? But let's see. I was in a Guardrail meeting with Alberta Transportation and your videos were brought up. We brought guys from Gregory up to train them on proper installation. Thanks for what you're doing. Hey, thanks for that update, because that is incredible. That my videos got brought up and that they're changing the way we do things in Canada. That's awesome. And glad that Alberta is doing. Is it Howard? Is it Harold or Harold Larson that's in charge in Alberta? Is he still involved? I'll tell you a story. There was one guardrail in New Brunswick. What's the one right next to Maine? But that sucker was a turn down, got replaced with a SKT 350 and was hit almost instantly. And I'm telling you, that would have been lethal. There was a horrific turn down crash in a PEI where I think it was 4 high school students ended up hitting a turn down, roll over, and went into a bay or a pond, and they were all lost. Let me flip this around. I'm down to like 15%. This is one of my favorite trees on the hike. Just an old magnolia tree, just beautiful. Today it's covered in snow. I love that tree. Anyways, my battery's getting low. I'll probably go ahead and end the live here just as soon as I get to the little bridge up here. We'll finish my hike. Thank you for jumping on here with me. 37 minutes. Just a brief hike through the East Tennessee snow. Thanks for spending a little time with me, making the hike a little more interesting. Except for it's pretty interesting almost every time we come out here. I see deer and eagles and not too many people. Just beautiful scenery. Today it's snowy. That thing about Alberta really, it's very encouraging. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks to everyone who briefly joined us here. Let me just get this last little panorama. This is one of my favorite sections of trail. Actually, in the morning that we lost Hannah, I was wearing a camo shirt, had a bow, and was headed into the woods. I was gonna head up actually right here and go for a morning hunt, and she said life changed in a minute. So thanks for bringing us along, Steve, and thanks for everything you do. I mean that. I followed you for several years now. Jennifer, thanks so much. Thanks for your gift, and it will be used to make a difference. I'm going to jump off here because my battery is about to die on the phone, down to 11%. So I'll say goodbye. If you're ever in the area, I'd be happy to set up some meetings. Enjoy the rest of your hike. Thank you. Y'all have a great... I almost tripped. That would be awful. I hope one of you had called 911 and saved me. But anyways, hi to Radley. But anyways, hey, thank you everyone for joining me. Let me just turn this around one more time, show you the beautiful scenery. There's my treeing walker coonhound. It was supposed to be a basset, but somebody didn't know what a basset and a hound dog were. Anyways, beautiful snowy morning here, or afternoon in Tennessee. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for joining me.